Hi, this is Jimbo with Altcoin Buzz. Thanks for tuning in for another TA section on today, the 23rd of November, the Saturday. Happy days, guys. The weekend has arrived, but it is a red weekend, that's for sure. Guys, we've been watching Bitcoin price over the last few weeks and analysing these lines to see if we could determine what could happen if Bitcoin broke one or another way of these support lines, and it is exactly what happened. And as we've been discussing previously in the videos, I'm going to dive straight into Bitcoin one day, guys. Just before I do that, I'm just going to let you know that we are going to jump over and take a look at two of the altcoins on the charts today. One which I want to remind you guys about its movement at the moment, and the other one is one that seems to be bucking the trend at the moment. When I've woken up this morning, it's good to see that there are some current cryptocurrencies that are bucking the trend, so I'll point that out to you guys as well. But let's start, as we always do, here on the Bitcoin one-day chart. And as you can see, while it's red, we saw another big drop off tomorrow. Started the day at 7616, got up to 7723, and as low as 6779. Pretty significant, guys. That candle yesterday, big drop off. Huge volume back. If you guys haven't read about it, go and check out, have a look at Whale Huobi. It doesn't always have to be whales, but there was a large amount sold on Huobi yesterday, is my understanding. But guys, let's just look at what we have been focusing on here. So, sorry, it's a little bit of a mess today. We'll clear up some of these lines as we go through, as they become irrelevant. So, first of all, we had this falling wedge in the white lines here that we were keeping our eye on, that was developing. And we made it clear that if we were to break below this, that there was a good chance that we were going to go and test on our key support lines, the red and blue lines here. And that's exactly what happened. So we can delete these lines because they're no longer necessary. That's played out, and we don't really need those at the moment. That being said, we may reapply this white resistance line another day once we see the bounce, because there's a good chance that this will be a good test line if we're to see a bounce. But for now, it can go, because we're just trying to neaten it up a little bit. So anyway, we broke through that white falling wedge, and we came down, and we continued to trend along the top of the support of the previous falling wedge, the blue area that we have been focusing on, and of course this key red support line that we've been focusing on. And once we bounced above the area for a little while, but as soon as we broke this, and it's a little bit more clear on the 4-hour chart. But as you can see, guys, as soon as we broke that red line, we stayed above it, As soon as it broke, that was when the volume came in. And then once we confirmed that there was no upside to get us back out of this falling wedge, that's when we saw this huge set of red candles yesterday. And we dropped all the way down. We saw a bounce pretty close to the bottom support of this wedge, a little bit higher. But as you can see, we did bounce a little bit higher off it there. Guys, this is not looking very good right now. You want to look for some sort of maybe a bullish reversal or something like that. I'm just not seeing it. So, I'd be looking for possibly a higher RSI, but we haven't got that, because if we had a higher RS relative strength index here, we could be saying that although the price has dropped lower, the actual strength has increased, but that hasn't happened. We are trading back in the blue wedge, guys. At the moment, that's going to be our area of focus. Again, now this red support line that we had so important as a support now becomes resistance again. And from my personal opinion, this is a very, very heavy resistance line. And you can see the volume it broke once it dropped as support, out of support, would suggest to me that that's a very heavy resistance line now, and we're going to have to see some serious volume to break back above that. But that that could happen with a good bounce. But of course, guys, what I will say is this obviously completely gets rid of the concept of the springboard out of the falling wedge. We've now broken back into the falling wedge, which absolutely kills the idea of the springboard. And actually, we could see this still break back up to the upside eventually, but once a falling wedge pattern's done this, it loses some of its strength. One thing I have seen some people suggesting is we could just stick another set of trend lines over it, so something like this. And now we have our upper resistance there, and we actually have a trading channel. Yeah, I can support that as well. I think that white line will become significant. In the longer term, it's obviously not very relevant to us right now. Sorry, I've got a bit of a cold. It's not very relevant to us right now because it's so far away, but I can see why that line would be relevant. But we don't need it right now. Let's get rid of that for now. We could overlay it another day. So what did I really want to focus on? Well, okay, so first of all, I noticed this line yesterday here at 7,400 and around the 7,430 area. Let me see if I can put a line in. And I sort of spoke out in some of the Telegram groups yesterday and said I thought it would be really interesting to see us finish around or above this line, because it seemed like a very significant horizontal support. We've got a lot of volume contacts on around this area. I was hoping that we would see Bitcoin come up and break through, and you can actually see that actually it was almost exact area where we retested and failed. So you can see it acted as support there, and we bounced off of it. Well, we failed to get above it this time. It's heavy resistance. So worth noting that sort of 7,430, 7,450 area. Again, I've said to you before, it's not a perfect science. We're just trying to do the best of the data we've got. I'm not a financial advisor, nor am I giving you financial advice. You guys know that. It's just me just having a look at the charts. That being said, guys, if you're enjoying the content and you find this stuff useful, please slap a like on the video and subscribe to Altcoin Buzz if you haven't already. We'll continue to churn out content for you guys that's useful, hopefully. Okay, so anyway, one more thing that I wanted to focus on the Bitcoin chart, and I think this is really significant now, especially if you are more to the bearish persuasion, you would say this is pretty significant. What I'm going to quickly do, guys, is just hide these lines. I'm just going to make them black so we can't see them for a second, these falling wedge lines, because they aren't relevant in this particular pattern that I want to show you. And I'm also going to hide our exponential moving averages, because you can see the relevancy of them now is less important with this huge drop on the daily. Next time we see this, the EMAs become significant is when we'll be testing these 7 as resistance. So at the moment we're just going to hide that. I'm just hiding it because it's not part of the chart pattern that I want to show you, and also I'm going to hide this horizontal, but keeping this because it is relevant but not relevant to this particular thing that I want to show you. Right now we need these 2 sets of reds. Now we've been focusing on these 2 sets of reds from my very first video. I put these in there for you guys and said that I thought these 2 resistance and support lines were significant, and that they may end up being more relevant in the future, and I believe that to be the case. Now, guys, I could be absolutely mistaken here, but this is looking very much like a head and shoulders formation. Now, these red lines might not be perfectly... that's not going to help. They might not be perfectly in position to show this head and shoulders. You could probably make this a higher angle to encapsulate this part of a shoulder and possibly this part of the shoulder here. So we could do that another day, but the chart formation is still relatively familiar. You've got a shoulder, you've got another shoulder, and of course the head. Now guys, if this does play out as a head and shoulders, this is a very, very bearish chart pattern. That's not to say 100% it will. I'm not in the art of telling you exactly what's going to happen. That's just not how I do this. But I just have to point out things that look interesting, and this does look like it could be interesting. And if it is a head and shoulders pattern, maybe you would put the bottom in around there where we saw our bounce. That's sort of where it makes sense. But then, no, there I think. So we could have even already broken this pattern. And if that's the case, then if this is a head and shoulders formation and it gets confirmed, then we've got downside to come. And I don't see any significant support until the 5,000 to 6,000 range. That's me personally. But this is just, this was an exponential run up. There's not a huge amount of volume trading in this area at the time. And as you can see, when we broke down from it before, although we do have a bit of previous trading volume there from last year, so maybe, but this 6,600 is the first real support line here, where this bottom candle is, where we bounced yesterday. We break down below that and we're going down towards 5.5k. But of course, that's just one case. That doesn't mean it has to play out this way. It could very easily bounce in this support area where we've seen bounces before, and we could end up seeing an upturn, especially with our stochastic RSI still trending so low for such a long period of time. But just worth keeping an eye on, guys. We've all seen a big sell-off. I did actually personally manage to trade that break into the falling wedge. Nothing too risky, as I never like to do that, but yeah, a nice little trade. But again, you know, we probably do things completely differently, just like we do things in our normal life completely differently. But that doesn't mean your approach or my approach is wrong. Everyone has their own way of doing things, right? Anyway, guys, so I'm going to quickly jump onto the two altcoins. First of all, we've got Enjin, which we've been focusing on for a few videos. I've been talking about this breakout of this pattern, and of course, there's a good chance that Bitcoin could spoil the party, but we have seen a nice rise off here when we did break off from the last video. We were just, if I'm not mistaken, we were just seeing a retest of this support, so we saw a nice 20% jump after that bounce, and we've come down, we've tested that support again and held it again with the stochastic RSIs turning positive again. It's looking bullish and more bullish, but of course Bitcoin could ruin the party, but worth keeping an eye on anyway. Got our daily stochastics pointing down at the moment, but whilst we're above this support line, I'm pretty bullish, but let's keep an eye on it. And finally, to wrap up the video, what's the coin that's bucking the trend right now? Well, it is absolutely Matic Network. As you can see, we've got a 4-hour candle, absolute beast of a 4-hour candle, from 200 all the way up to 226, 10% in the last 4-hour candle. Absolutely brilliant. You can see that is pumping hard. It looks like it's to do with this breakout from this horizontal trading zone. Again, line might not be perfect. We can probably move it up there. You can see that this was an area of interest for some time. This we were sort of trying to break it, and potentially you could even go stretch it as far as saying maybe this is an ascending triangle. Oh, my line's coming out black. That's not going to help. But you could potentially say that we had an ascending triangle forming here, and we've now broken the top end of that. So this could be a very bullish indicator for Matic Network, especially if we break this final wick here at 229. This would be how I would play this. I've not entered Matic. I've only just noticed this when I've woken up today. If we broke 229, I would expect to see much more upside, or potentially some more upside, and we'll go on and start challenging some of the previous heights. But until we break that wick there, I wouldn't want to enter just because we're at such a high point. But break that wick, and all of a sudden you enter a new trading zone, and maybe let it consolidate for a little while. But yeah, so worth keeping an eye on again. Anyway, listen, that's going to wrap up the video for me today. I hope you have a lovely weekend. I hope you manage to protect some of your funds in the big drop. That goes for everyone. You know, I hope you're prepared and ready to trade these crazy ups and downs. If you've enjoyed the video, once again, please slap a like on it. Please comment in the description. Let me know what you guys are doing. As I always say, guys, see you later on down the trend line.